25th, we have New York State Assemblyman Brian Cunningham here in Wingate Park, Flatbush. And we're going to start off by asking Mr. Cunningham, excuse me, New York State Assemblyman Cunningham, what is your job?
So my job as a state legislator is to spend 6 months of the year in Albany, um, passing laws and also passing a budget, making sure that the issues that happen in our communities get addressed through policy and through legislation. Oftentimes what happens in communities is that we see an issue and we don't realize that the problem or the solution to that problem is actually just passing a bill that would essentially change the complexion of the issue for us in our community, as well as every year in April we pass a $220 billion budget, which puts resources in this community like what we see at Wingate Park.
Got you. And what's going on today here at Wingate Park?
Yeah, so Wingate Park today we're hosting our annual basketball tournament. When I was a kid, I told you earlier, I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up 5 minutes from here on Linwood Boulevard.
Okay.
I used to play the Duncan Light basketball tournament.
Wow.
And it was one of those things that just helped me, one, not only learn how to be competitive, right? That's life. Life is a competition. But also how to be a team player, how to lose gracefully, how to work with people, and also how to be engaged with people that I probably wouldn't have connected with outside of being in the same court with them.
Yeah.
So today we had a couple of kids out here, 7 and under, 10 and under. We got some high school kids. We got some adults running basketball. We're giving out trophies because in our mind, everybody's a winner, right?
Yes, sir.
I got Bill Russell on my shirt right now.
Okay, that's love.
Michael was the greatest of all time. Kobe probably number 2. But Bill was the greatest winner of all time.
Yes.
And off the court, what he did besides win was Bill also taught us how to be engaged civically, right? He was one of those players that didn't just shut up and dribble. He didn't just stick to the court. He did a bunch of stuff off the court to kind of make sure that at a time when he was playing when race relations was really, really high,
Yes.
that he centered not only us being entertainers and chucking and jiving, but us also having a voice in the conversation.
Very important.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to get to a question. How is voting helping the black community when it seems like it doesn't? We vote every time. They come out when it's time to give votes. They say they're going to do this, they say they're going to do that. Even with the current administration,
Yeah.
we have gotten nothing from them, in my opinion.
Yeah. So
How does voting help our community?
So I think a couple of things, right? I think one, voting is just one part of civic engagement, right? And I think people miss that part. Just like I legislate for 6 months of the year and I do community building like this for 6 months of the year, people shouldn't just assume that they go vote and they've done their due diligence and that their civic engagement is over. As an elected official who represents over 170,000 residents in New York State,
Wow.
for me, I can't be on every block. So for me, I rely on people on the ground, those grandmothers, those brothers on the corner who sometimes people think up to no good. They provide me with the greatest insight on what's happening in our community. In fact, this basketball tournament came out of a conversation with a young brother who said, look, we need to invest more money in this park. We need more programs. We need AU tournaments where we can also take teams to travel across state lines, because oftentimes a kid has a Metro card but hasn't been to the Bronx, who lives in Brooklyn, right? So I think part of what we're trying to do is trying to make government more relatable. As you said, the elections were in June for me. So I'm not one of those elected officials who get elected in June and you don't see me again. I'm back out here in my sweatpants.
You're
in the
showing
community,
action right now, brother.
Playing ball with the kids and
Yes.
making sure that we take their ideas and turn it into resources, and also turn those ideas and turn it into public policy. So I think it's important to vote because, one, communities that vote get heard. When you look at communities like ours, I represent 170,000 people. In my last election, I got 7,000 votes. So, and the person closest to me got 4,000 votes. So it tells me that we are not 2,000 votes. My apology. So that tells me that 8,000 people voted in a community that I represent 170,000. So all of us are not voting.
To that question, what can you do? Because you are the type of representation that we ask for. Somebody from the neighborhood who grew up here, who knows their everyday life. What can we do to get more of our people from the neighborhood to go out and vote? What would be your,
Yeah, I mean, I think, traditionally what we've done is like we mail people homes, we stand by train stations, give out literature. I think people are looking for authenticity, and they're looking for people who are going to show up in the office. So in every conversation, I always introduce myself as Brian. I never say, I'm a son of Brian Cunningham. People may ask what I do. My title doesn't define me. That's just a part of who I am.
That was
so I
deep.
think, just coming and showing up for folks, talking to folks, being present, helps people understand that, oh, I didn't realize that my state elected official hosted a basketball tournament. I didn't realize that those are things they do on top of legislate. What do we do to increase it? I think we just continue to show and prove. I think people are jaded by sometimes the lack of results we see, not understanding the process. So my most important role outside of legislating is to educate and to make sure that I bring my people with me at every step of the way.
And this question I always wanted to ask: how do you feel about charter schools versus public school?
Yeah.
The way I feel is that charter schools are a better tool for the community, so we can teach our kids how to navigate real world situations and what they would have to face once, as they say, you turn 18, become an adult. What do you feel? What's
So
your
the
feeling?
first thing, in terms of how I feel, public schools and charter schools are all public schools, right? And I think that's the part that sometimes language is important, right? So when we tell people that there's a charter and a public, people often assume that the charter is something different from the public experience, when a charter just means that someone has created a certain allocation of what they want that school to do. So you may have a charter school for African studies, a charter school for sports management, a charter school for technology. I believe that parents have the right to choose how they want their child educated. I give you an example, Mr. Softy in the background. I give you an example. Part of what I see oftentimes with parents is that a parent may have religious requirements for their child. So they might send their child to a parochial school, which is, a Catholic school, etc. The communities that I represent, the Jewish community that send their kids to yeshivas. I think parents having the option of figuring out what works best for their child is my approach always. I think charter schools add another layer to the conversation. But I think the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we properly fund our public education schools. We saw just in this last budget that the mayor and the administration made some subtle cuts, and part of that was when you think about the $215 million cuts, part of that was based in some of the enrollment that has gone down in our schools. But we know for years that our schools have been underinvested in. So despite the under-enrollment, we still make a deeper investment because communities like ours have been left out for far too long in terms of having the resources they need to have a full experience education.
Brother, I'm not going to take no more of your time. You are very well spoken.
I appreciate that.
You're authentic. You come from here, and you sound real.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, and you showed action by being here today and setting us up. So we look forward to hearing and seeing more from you.
Yes, sir.
And I said more than 3/5. Thank you, New York Assemblyman Brian Cunningham. He likes to be called Brian.
Brian, that's it.
Real guy right
here.
here.
Peace.
Thank you.